out.
You definitely did it the right way around, because I'd have been apoplectic if I'd have had this first. Then you gave me that one.
Yes.
Hey, everybody. John, Andy. The Audiophiles. It's music, governor, isn't it? Yeah. Welcome. In your mind, you have capacities, to telepath messages through the vast unknown. Please close your eyes and concentrate with every thought you think upon the recitation we're about to sing. More on that later, perhaps. But first, we have a track which Andy has chosen wisely, I'm sure, for myself and for everybody else to listen to. Andy, what do you got?
We are going to revisit a band that has appeared once on this channel a couple months ago-ish. We're going to check out another song by the band mewithoutYou. And the first song that I gave you by them was a bit of a crack. I mean, I really do like that song, but it's got a little bit, I knew it was going to raise your aspects of it were going to raise your cockles a little bit because it has a bit of that theater stuff to it. This is one of their more serious songs. So it is a track called January 1979, and I chose it specifically to show you that there is this whole other aspect to this band that is a lot less playful and silly as what you saw with the Fox, the Crow, and the Cookie.
Ah, those fellas.
Yes, those fellas.
Those Sesame Street rejects. Yes, I remember them.
Yes. The great prop work in that video, though. You must.
Yeah, I mean, it was. Yeah, it was Peter and the Wolf-esque. It really was.
Yes.
And I've always had a soft spot for Peter and the Wolf, I have to say. So.
Excellent. Well, as I said, this is a bit of a different beast, a bit of a more mature song, this January 1979. And I'd like for you to give it a listen and come back and let me know what you made of it.
Will do.
Awesome.
Really nice start. I was a sucker for feedback at the beginning of the song. And we go to this nice sort of rolling rhythm. It's like a touch of I'm totally wrong here, but there's some Sonic Youth songs that start like this. And it's got like a bit of the Foo Fighters in it as well. It's that marriage. It's not, but there you go.
January 1979 saw a terrible crash. Couldn't help but laugh. My ear pressed against the path like a glass on the wall of a house in a photograph. My forehead no longer sweet with holy kisses.
I like these vocals actually. It's on that edge of shoutiness, but not quite there. And the way he said a couple of words there, it was like quite British almost. That sort of I tell you what it reminded me of. The guy, and I will remember his name, out of Smash. So where he said photograph. I'm just gonna go back there. And I liked also that his mate chipped in at the side, singing another line. I like that sort of stuff as well. Come on.
Worthy of your fiery lips, I was floating in a peaceful
catching some words, and it's that sort of combination of slightly more intelligent, not flowery, but something about no longer worthy of your fiery lips. It's a nice way of putting things. So there's a bit of sort of intelligence there in there, but it's also sounding like pissed off and anguished as well, which is cool. After that sort of rhythmic refrain there, when it came back in again, there's that guitar doing those high notes. It's really, really nice. I like that. Let me just sit back a little bit. I'm really sorry, but I'll keep stopping it. But I just want to listen to that bit again. That was really nice. Damn, that petered out. Um, I immediately want to listen to this again. It felt really sort of quite rich musically. There's lots going on, the different guitars, tones. That ending, it was just like the smoke clearing after this explosion. But yeah, the vocals bring a bundle of energy to it, which is really nice. But it's not all sort of straight head down and run to the door. There's a lot of thought gone into the way the song flows and goes through. Yeah, I really like this, and it's really impressive. I really want to listen to it again because I don't think I caught a quarter of what's going on. Yeah, it sounded great as well. Really, that's a real ride. I'm really impressed by it actually. Cool. All right, let's go back and talk to Andy and find out what the hell is going on.
Welcome back. So this now your second track with Me Without You. What do you make of this tune?
Okay, so feedback start that could double as an extended answer phone bleep. Always a winner with me. I always like that shit ever since, I feel fine. Then straight into it, no messing. Song proper. It has a kind of muscular sound as well as a sort of driving sound, that forceful beat. And it brought me to mind almost straight away. It had a sort of a whiff of Foo Fighters about it almost, early-ish Foo Fighters, I mean.
Yeah.
That same sort of drive. And also, there are some mid-period Sonic Youth songs that start almost exactly the same way before the madness kicks in of Lee Ronaldo's guitar, etc. The bass is sounding really decent here as well in this bit. It keeps alternating between the sort of higher and lower. Really nicely done. Singer comes in and he sings the title of the song, first line. Significant? I'll never know. Anyway, unless you tell me.
So you might find out.
His voice, he is on the verge of shouting, but it does give this sort of impassioned tone to his voice. And I guess I must listen to plenty of singers like this because I liked him.
Yeah.
This is not unknown territory to me. But interestingly, some of his pronunciation, particularly in the first verse, and only the first verse, had me thinking for a minute that he was British. There were certain words. There was one that sounded like path, was definitely glass, and the way he sung the word photograph, it was very British. And it reminded me of a couple of singers, but in particular, a guy from a band called Smash, a guy called Ed Borey. And I'd just been listening to him literally a couple of hours before. And his voice goes back really to Julian Cope, early Julian Cope. So the connection there as well. And I could hear that in it. But this impression quickly faded and, it wasn't there. But it just was there for the first, 4 lines. It was really interesting. Like, it's gone. I also liked how I think, not sure, it could have been just dubbing, but I think it was his mate who chipped in at the side with a line. And I always love that sort of shit as well, because it's like, you imagine them leaning in, because always when they do that, their quality of how it catches their voice isn't quite as good as it's all set up to catch the lead singer. So he's kind of side to stage going, I want to say something as well, it sounded, even if it was patched in of him doing it himself, it still was done perfectly to sound like somebody leaning in. And again, I love that because it gives it a bit of sense of, where you are within it. Now, I'm only getting a few words, but the words that I did get seemed to me, and I tried to write some down, and they didn't stick. But at the time, as I was listening to them, I was thinking that these words were a touch more, it's hard to say the right sort of description, they're slightly more intelligent and perhaps a touch more literary than you would expect from the kind of music you'd get in here. There was a line, something about bloody, bloody, blah, not worthy of your fiery lips, and something about floating in a peaceful sea. That's sort of those two lines just before the first chorus that made me think, well, there's an angry tone to this, obviously. The man's, belting away, but there's a bit more to the lyrics than just what you would expect from an angry, fervent song. Then we get to the rhythmic chorus, and I believe it's a chorus anyway, because he does repeat later on. Against the backing of his bandmates' more straight singing, his voice seems even more manic than in the verses, because you've got this contrast now. And he's like, I thought of Isaac Brock having a panic attack. That's what it sounded like to me. Again, this is not something I dislike.
No,
it's a good thing.
You just through that descriptor, I'm like, I'd love to hear what that sounds like from a musical standpoint.
So then we go back into the verse phase, but this time there's a really nice guitar sort of chiming out this pretty melody over the top of the maelstrom, and combined with the bass, which sounds even better here. It's really traveling. And now I'm getting like hints of Interpol. And then it moves into the next part, and it's no longer just hints now. It's full gob flavors of that early Interpol. And that transition part around the 2 minute mark, where it goes before it goes into another verse, that was my favorite bit of the whole song. Just that sort of 20 to 30 seconds of instrumentation. And I did pull it back. I mean, I pulled back the song about 3 times and was pissed everybody off who's watching it. Apologies. So we get another verse, more mania. I noticed the drums now more. I'm sure they were there before, but I just noticed them this time, doing some great stuff. And then we get into another chorus. Now, I will say my thoughts here is the chorus isn't terrible, but I found it probably the weakest part of the track, or the less appealing to me. It's not even that I disliked it. It's just I felt the other bits more interesting.
Yeah.
You know. And then we weirdly get this return of this chiming guitar, but full, the attention is on him now, as it were. And he just gently ringing out until the song ends, which is a very interesting decision to change the song at that point. And for me, it was like the smoke clearing after this energetic explosion, and we're just slowly calming down again in the quiet room. Timmy's had a bit of an afternoon. He's gone into the quiet room. So from this song, I couldn't tell you what it's about, but the impressions I got this impression of a touch of nihilism, definitely some anger, but it came across to me as something that was quite intelligently structured as a song and really pieced together well. So it wasn't just a rant. I think I said in the reaction, like, it wasn't just a head down and run straight at the door sort of song. I have to say, I was really impressed by this song and really liked it. And I want to and will listen to it again, definitely, because there's a lot to it, which really sort of intrigued me as well. As I say, that particularly that middle section, the instrumentation was just wonderful. I'd all have to say as well, I can't believe it's the same bunch of jokers that did that community theatre piece.
Yeah.
And also what surprised me, because I think I gather from this that this is an earlier thing, that was their direction of travel as a band. That surprised me as well, that choice. But, each to their own. Yeah. But yeah, this was a good shout. I really enjoyed this. And it was very interesting to see this is what they, the different sides of a band and what they've done and decided which direction to go. And it's all sorts of reasons why they might go that way, change of personnel, change of circumstance, midlife crisis. I don't know. But yeah,
I think they did.
To fill us in on what happened and what made all this occur like this.
Sure, yeah. I think the Fox, the Crow, and the Cookie is more of just like there's real talent in what they did with that song, but it's obviously they're having some fun too.
Yes.
And that's like dare I say, like a one-off of them just cutting loose a little bit and
a bit of indulgence.
Yeah, and putting it on the album. This is more a more primitive version of this on their first record, and then a more polished version of this as they progress is kind of really where they're at and what they were. They came out of like the post-hardcore era, so you could tell with some of the fervent nature, the vocal delivery and stuff like that, there's still some residual like hardcore residue left on the surface, but really it's so much more than that. And it's not, you do get more of this like art rock, indie rock kind of guitar stuff going on there. It's funny you said Interpol, because I was like, if there's one band that this is going to remind John of that he's familiar with, I bet you it's going to be Interpol in my head. Like, cause the guitar stuff it's just so very adjacent. And not even that far adjacent, you know what I mean? You're like, yeah, I can pick up on that. So yeah, I knew part of me wishes that I had done it the other way around, but I'm glad I did it this way so I could have you like, I could sort of, knowing how you are with music and the theatrical nature, this could kind of wash the whatever bad taste is in your mouth out.
You definitely did it the right way around, because I'd have been apoplectic if I'd have had this first. Then you gave me that one.
Yes, yeah. That's what I thought. That's what made me rethink my stance. So Quick recap of the band, because as you can obviously infer from our discussion, we've covered these guys before. So I will link their information to that video, or the information of that video, in the description below. You can catch up on that, probably create a playlist down the line. But a quick recap of the band, mewithoutYou. They are a Philadelphia-based indie rock, post-rock, art rock band comprised of Aaron Weiss on vocals, Michael Weiss and Brandon Beaver on guitars, Greg Jahanian on bass guitar, and Ricky Mazzata on drums. And they were formed in 2001 and disbanded in 2022 after releasing 7 albums. I believe it's 5 EPs and 2 LPs, if I'm not mistaken, or EPs rather. The 5 EPs and then the 2 shorter albums. So a decent amount of output over like a 21-year span. So, and they grew quite popular and had definitely a cult following. This particular song is the second track featured on their second album, which was entitled "Catch for Us the Foxes," released in 2004. The album takes its name from the biblical song, Song of Songs, 2:15. Catch for us the foxes, the little foxes that ruin the vineyards, our vineyards that are in bloom. Reoccurring motifs throughout the album include foxes, which are in disaster tourism and the Soviet, leaves in Tie Me Up, Unite Me, and Leaf, and day and night in disaster tourism and the Soviet. Frontman and songwriter Aaron Weiss quotes many different sources, but most often he borrows from Jalal ad-Din Rumi, a poet of Sufism, the religion of his mother. Yeah. And he also taps into, as you can imagine, as I stated from the title of the album itself, also just religious imagery in general, whether it's Eastern or Western religion. He kind of like taps into that a lot, which I find really interesting. Catch for Us the Foxes reached a peak position of number 20 on the Billboard Top Heat Seekers on October 23rd, 2004. Absolute Punk rated the album a 91%, and AllMusic rated it a 4 out of 5 stars, forgive me. Sputnik Music wrote of the album, "A remarkable interplay between the different members of the band emerges, with guitar chords and drum beats and bass lines endlessly looping around each other. No member, except for maybe drummer Ricky Mazzata, is flashy or virtuosic. Rather, the band is utilitarian, each member playing their own modest parts to attain a compositional whole. Catch Us for the Foxes is really where mewithoutYou's music starts to find a flow and true rhythm. At first, it can almost form into some hazy backdrop, but that's perfectly all right. Anything more grandiose would detract from the band's newfound weapon." And of this particular track, they would write, "January 1979 is a tour de force, thriving off of a driving bass line and a passionate performance by Weiss." And James Madison, not the American historical figure, a writer for punknews.org, actually, wrote of this album, "The entire album is spectacular, but the tracks that stand out above all others are Torches Together, January 1979, Carousels, and Son of a Widow. These are the first 2 and the last 2 tracks of the album, respectively, and the progression between them is fantastic. The first 2 start the album off with a bang, with the thundering Torches Together serving as an amazing warm-up for the band's highlight, the bombastic January 1979. These 2 are probably the loudest and fastest songs on the album, and the reverb-drenched guitar soundscape set the mood for the rest of the album." So, jump into these lyrics a little bit, and then I will discuss them. So, January 1979 saw a terrible crash, and I couldn't help but laugh. My ears pressed against the past like a glass on a wall of a house in a photograph. I love that line. My forehead no longer sweet with holy kisses worthy of your fiery lips. I was floating in a peaceful sea, rescued by a sinking ship. If I could become the servant of all, no lower place to fall. If I could be your servant. If I could become the servant of all, no lower place to fall. If I could be your servant. If I could become the servant of all, no lower place to fall. I could be your servant. If I could become the servant of all, no lower place to fall. If I could be your servant. Watch me like a 10-car highway wreck with detached vulgar curiosity. This looking down on the tops of the hats of our passers-by from your seventh floor balcony, and from such a height you missed, creatures too small for sight carry on covert conversation. As the misguided insects crown me their grasshopper king with the dance of celebration. After years with their crown on my head, I've grown overfed, unconcerned, and uncomfortably numb, kept busy indulging in the pleasures of the wealthy. Oh, someone make me afraid of what I've become. At the first sign of a possible sorrow, I'll turn my heel and run. Oh, I'll never learn. My life's a cup of sugar I borrowed before time began, and I forgot to return. I could be your servant. It was a matter of time. I always said I could see, but now I'm going blind. If I could be your servant. It was a matter of time. I always said I could see, but now I'm going blind. I could be your servant. It was a matter of time. I always said I could see, but now I'm going blind. If I could be your servant. It was a matter of miserable time, but I heard somewhere there's a cure for useless eyes. And those are the lyrics. And you're right, they are heavy and interesting and speak of, like, I do think they do speak to an intelligence of the writer. And there is some really interesting stuff that you can go through there. So yeah, this is from the same website, that the Genius website that I pulled the lyrics from. January 1979 is a song themed around Aaron Weiss's failure as a human in life. He was born January 1979. The crash, Aaron explains, refers to his birth. Aaron wrote this song discussing his frustration surrounding his overfed, unconcerned, and comfortably numb existence. Realizing his failure, he sings of becoming a servant of all, a reference to Matthew 23:11. Becoming the lowest would imply that there would no longer be any possibility of failing more. While he remarks that his eyes have become useless, the song ends with the hope of a cure. His concept about grasshoppers may reference to Numbers 13:33 or Isaiah 40:22. The line, "My ears pressed against the past like a glass on the wall of a house in a photograph," closely resembles a line in Richard Brautigan's novel, "So the wind won't blow it all away." So he's not only a student of theology, but he also just likes a good novel. So there is the song in a nutshell. I think it's very clever. I love the lyrics, love the more fervent nature, bombastic as it was described, nature of the verse, and more of this melodious kind of approach to the chorus. Now, I probably would say, gun to my head, I like the verse a little bit more to the chorus too. But I think the way the chorus sounds helps.
It's not terrible. It's not terrible. Don't get me wrong. It's just, yeah, I like it. Yeah.
And I agree exactly with what you're saying. So I see exactly what you mean. But I do think that there's something about the way the chorus is a bit of a stark contrast, only underscores the difference between the two and makes me like them more. Because it's less of this, oh, it just perfectly bleeds into it. It's more of this, ooh, this is interesting where we've gone here. So yeah, I'm a big fan of the song. I'm glad that you gave these guys another try, and that I was, right in that this one would win you over a little bit more than perhaps what I gave you in the past.
Yeah, in you for a while. Yeah.
Well, guys out there in the listening audience, let us know what you thought of January 1979 by Me Without You. Big fan of these guys, and maybe I'll bring some more to the table. Go ahead.
Just to stop you there, before you carry on, it's so goddamn depressing, because I was thinking, well, what's happening in January 1979 and blah blah blah. It's when they were fucking born. I mean, like, Jesus, that is depressing.
Yeah, he really rips himself apart on this one, for sure. And just the sort of like the king of, they crown me the grasshopper king or whatever it is, like sort of that old adage or that old tale about what is it, the ant and the grasshopper, and
Yeah.
the ants do all the work as the grass, and he's kind of looking at himself as that. It's just I don't know, I clever and interesting, and I like it, and clearly self-deprecating, as you mentioned. But yeah, guys, let us know what you think about Me Without You. What do you think about this track? If there's other stuff we should listen to. If you have any suggestions, like the song, hate the song, however you feel about it, it's just a song. None of us wrote it. So just let us know how you feel in the comments field below. Just be kind to each other. All that out of the way, please feel free to like, share, and subscribe if you haven't yet. We're trying to grow the channel, and we actually are starting to see some growth, and we really do appreciate each and every one of you for the assistance therein. All that out of the way, hopefully John and I will see all y'all in growing numbers in the next installment of the Audiophiles. We'll see you later, guys.